Hey there, this is Ryan Nickel with Bootstrap REI, and this is a day in the life of a real estate investor. So, coming at you with episode number 18. So last night I was speaking at a investment club, and I was teaching about some of the strategies that I do with seller financing. And I also was sharing with some of the, basically one of my most recent frustrations with a deal went wrong. And to sum it up, what happened was I purchased a property, but I broke one of my cardinal rules, and that rule is never to purchase a property without knowing that I have it sold. And I thought it was a slam dunk, and I thought, you know what, I know better than this, I got this handled. And so I purchased a property, and I wasn't able to get it sold as quickly as possible, and I became desperate, and I took an offer from an investor that was a great offer, but I also didn't vet him like I would normally vet people, just because I thought it was a credible investor. And I'm ending up having to foreclose on this property, and I realize that it's going to be a costly and time-consuming process because just several different things. And so I shared that with this club, with this investment club, and in the process of sharing that, I realized that I also told them that, hey, you need to be careful. This is what happens if you don't do things right. And I freaked a lot of them out. And they thought, well, great, how do I do this? How do I find good buyers then? And I didn't realize that this is what I was portraying, that this is the message that was, unintentionally being conveyed. And someone brought it to my attention after the fact that said, hey, you really did a great job on the presentation, but, you gotta love those buts, but you also instilled a lot of fear in people because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to find the right buyer, and they're going to get screwed, and this is going to be a huge investment and time and loss and money and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh, dang it. It was the one apple that I've had in all of the transactions that have made things just go a little south. But here's my point, and this is how it's affected me. I have not been pursuing property the way that I should be pursuing property because of this fear that I've had. And I haven't been looking for property. So basically it comes down to this. I called a guy last night or yesterday before my speaking engagement, and this is part of the follow-up. So I called him up and I said, hey, is your property still available? He's like, hey man, I'm in a meeting right now. Let me call you right back. And the reason why I called him was because he had contacted me about a month ago and said, hey, this is my price. Can you hit me on this price? And it's in an area where it's really wishy-washy. It was in the flood zone, a flood plain, and comps are all over the place. As low as $64,000 for this property, as high as $290,000. And I'm like, this is very difficult for me to comp out. There's no recent sales in the last 8 months. There's no recent sales. And so I was hesitant on my end. I'm like, I don't know. I brought it to one buyer, and he's like, I'm not really comfortable in being in the flood zone there. I can't for my resale. I brought it to another buyer, and he goes, I'm not really in the market right now for rehab. That doesn't seem like it's going to be a good one for me. And I'm like, well, crap. You know what? These guys aren't biting right now, so I'm not even going to take it. And the fact of the matter is that I would have gotten this property under contract for $100,000. And I contacted another buyer, and that has bought property from me in the past. And I said, hey, this is the transaction. This is the deal. This is what the numbers are. And he goes, I'm definitely interested. When can I get in to see it? I'm like, well, I'll call the guy up and see if we can, get you in tomorrow. So that was me calling him yesterday, and he's like, I'm at the meeting right now. So he finally texted, and I texted him. I said, hey, whenever you're done with your meeting, give me a holler. I'm really interested in your property. I'm ready to move forward on it. And so he calls me back, or he texts me later that night after I was done speaking and all of that. And he goes, hey, I wasn't able to call you back because I was meeting with the buyer. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me right now? And he's like, so I'm like, okay, cool, man. I'm happy for you. Good for you. Sounds like you got it all wrapped up. He's like, yeah, I really hope so. Blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, that's awesome, man. How much did you sell it for? He's like, $110,000. I was like, wow, dude. So what that told me was immediately, if I would have got this thing under contract for $108,000, I would have been able to at least assign it to somebody for $8,000. Because that's what this guy bought that for. And I was thinking about it this morning, and I'm like, what the hell is the matter with me? Why am I so afraid? Because the way that I've been going around it's all been chicken shit. Honestly, I mean, I'm looking at my deals and I'm like, okay, I closed several transactions last month. I closed 2. I got two of the three closed, and one of them we backed out of because during the inspection period the guy was just being a dick. He's like, nope, sorry guys, ain't gonna give you a dime on that one. So we closed that. We canceled that one out. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? Why aren't I going and getting these properties under contract? Because I'm afraid, I'm scared. This deal that I've had that went south, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Never commit on a property until I get it sold. That's true. Never commit to buy the property until you know you have it sold. That doesn't mean anything about going and getting a property under contract. You don't have to get a property under contract until you know you have it sold. That's ludicrous. That's stupid. And I'm looking at my own fear and I'm like, this pisses me off. I can't believe that I've gone this route, that I've been so damn afraid to pull the trigger because I don't have a buyer. I'm such a pussy in this regard. I'm like, oh, you know what? Here's the address. Tell me if you're interested in this property. If you're, I'm going to go get it under contract. Well, guess what can happen? It hasn't. I got good relationships, but it can. They can go, hey, Ryan, guess what? I don't need you, and I don't need, and I got this property under contract in my own name. Thank you very much. And I just screwed myself. I don't need this. So anyway, I'm looking at why am I doing this? And I understand the reason why. And so it's how do I move forward despite the fear that I have? My contracts are written, and most contracts have the same clause, that if during the inspection period the property doesn't meet your satisfaction, guess what? I'm getting all hoarse here, I'm all yelling and stuff like that, getting all fired up. But I can get out of my contract. And so I gotta stop being a pussy. And yes, that's exactly what it is. I'm being a damn pussy about this whole entire business here. I gotta freaking man up, go out there and get these properties under contract, and then shop them around. I have buyers. I have multiple buyers, but instead of trying to find the buyer first to get under contract, I need to get the properties under contract. And so how do I move forward past this? I'm going up right now and I'm getting a property under contract. I'm canceling on one, actually. I'm driving an hour out of town to cancel on a property just because there's so many, oh my gosh, there's so many problems with this one. There's a failed septic, there's meth that's been cooked on the property, there's 3 trailers that have holes dug underneath them so they can just flush the toilets and the sewage just goes right into the ground. There's a brother-sister dispute about, whose property it really is. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on in this one. So, that's that property. So I'm getting out of that one. I'm just like, you know what? I've had 4 different buyers look at it, and every single one of them is like, nope, too much work for too little profit. Oh, on top of it, we have to split the properties. I thought originally I thought that there were 2 properties on 2 separate lots. It's 1 property on 2 lots, and so we have to go get that one. So a lot of risk because I looked at getting a lot reassignment and a lot adjustment because and splitting the proper parcels because we have 2. It's 2 parcels, but one's just a garage, and then the other ones are just the properties. And either doing a lot of adjustment or splitting it. Now, in order to do that, I'm looking at the county and the fees and everything else. I'm looking at almost $10,000. And if I have a failed septic, that's another $20,000. So it's $30,000 in costs already into this property. And at best, I'm going to be able to sell this for about $180,000, and I'm buying it for $100,000. And I was going to wholesale it to another investor for $120,000. So let's say, we got $40,000 in fees, $120,000, $160,000, and there's about $40,000 in rehab costs. So there's just no way that this deal is even going to fly. And I thought, well, what if I get it for like $65,000? Even at then, unless someone's going to buy it and keep it as a rental and do all the repairs and work and stuff like that, that might work. But there's no way this dude's going to come down that far. We had him he was at 140, and we got him down to 100. So we're going to just cancel it out. It's just too many nightmares on that one. So I'm seeing firsthand, my own experience is telling me, look, I can get out of these contracts. It's not an issue. The issue is me not pulling the trigger because of fear that I'm not going to be able to get out of the contracts, which is completely illogical because I'm showing right now that I've been able to get out of these contracts. So, what does that mean to you? Move forward in spite of the fear. I recognize that I've been doing this, that I've been sabotaging myself because I've been afraid. Not any longer. I'm done. I'm past that. So I'm going to, after I cancel this contract, I'm going to go look at another house and get it under contract. They are actually completely walking away from the property. Different strategy on this one. I'm not worried about having it sold because we're not going to sell this property. We are actually going to challenge the foreclosure that's on it. And I'm doing this with another partner of mine. He's taking the lead. I really have never done it this way. So it'll be a whole new experience for me. But anyway, I digress. There are 2 properties on my radar right now. 2 of them that I've had just kind of sitting there in the background because the buyer who I showed these properties to is like, oh yes, I'm interested in those properties. But I haven't done my due diligence and I haven't done my research to tell you what, to know what price I need them at. And I'm like, forget you. You know what? This has been 3 damn weeks already. I'm going to get these properties under contract and come back to him with my price. And if that works for him, perfect. If it doesn't, guess what? We're going somewhere else. I love it if he's watching this. He's too busy though. He's a big player. He's not going to be watching my little videos here. Who knows? Anyway, act in spite of fear. Action cures fear. And it's me driving all over the road too. So that's my motto for my motto for today. Action cures fear. Take action, cure the fear. This is Ryan Nickel with Bootstrap REI, and I'm definitely bootstrapping this one today.